We already know what is a variable, and now let's talk what types of data we can save in these variables. In JavaScript there are 8 basic data types, that's all, and 7 of them are primitive and 1 is object. We'll talk about them, what's the difference and what's the benefits of primitive data types. So let's start from the first one and let's go one by one in general, and then we will talk about each data type in separate videos. So let's start from the number. The number type represents both integer and floating point numbers. For example, let's add number, and we can reassign. There are many operations for numbers, for example, multiplication, division, adding, subtraction, and so on. For example, we can n plus 23 or 23 minus 42. Okay. Also, besides regular numbers, there are so-called special number values, which also belong to the data type. There are infinity, minus infinity, and none. Infinity represents the mathematical infinity value. It's the symbol in math. It's a special value that's greater than any number in JavaScript we have. So, for example, let's do some samples in console to show how it works. If we 1 divide by 0, we will get infinity, or we will get minus infinity. Why do we need these variables? Sometimes when we compare two numbers and we need initial value, we need the biggest number or the smallest number we can to use. The next one is none. None represents a computational error. So it's a result of incorrect or undefined mathematical operation. For instance, let's try divide string by number. It's none. We use it pretty often, none, so we need to know how it works and when it can be caused, when it can be created. The next one is new data type, is bigint. In JavaScript, the number type cannot represent integer value larger than 2 power of 53 or less than minus 2 power of 53 for negative variables. That's a technical limitations caused by the internal representation. That's about 16 decimal digit, so for most purposes the limitation it's not a problem and it's enough, but there are some areas where we need bigger number, and for these purposes, for example cryptography or some microseconds computations. Recently was represented new data type bigint. How it looks? It's the same, almost the same. It's almost the same number, but we can create any number, but in the end we add n. So now it's big N. We can save any number, for example, some huge number, and we can, for example, do everything what we want. For example, multiply 2, but we can't without conversion, so let's do this one. So we need a big number multiply another big number, and we even can do such, and we will get even bigger number. The next data type we can talk is string. String in JavaScript can be surrounded by quotes, and it will be surrounded by quotes. There are 3 types of quotes. Let me show you. The first one is double quotes, the second one is a single quote, and the third one is backticks. The difference between the first and second is there is no difference almost, and what's important is the third one. The third one, backticks, are extended functionality codes. They allow us to embed variables and expressions into a string by wrapping them into these special characters. So let's, for example, calculate something. Hello, it's backstick. It's a regular string, but if we want to add some computation, for example, we will have result of this computation. Also, we can create any variable. And this variable will be parsed as a variable. Okay, the next data type is Boolean or logical type. The Boolean type has only two values. It's true and false. True and false. This type is commonly used to store yes/no values. True means yes, correct, and false means no, incorrect. Or true, it's 1, false, it's 0. For example, we can say, for example, is user available true, and then if we need to change the value, we can reassign false, and it will be false. This type is very important, and we will talk about it later, how we can use it, for example, in comparing variables. The next one is data type null. It's a special type. This type doesn't belong to any of types we described before. So in JavaScript, null is not a reference to non-existing object or null pointer like in some other languages. It's just a special value which represents nothing, empty or value unknown. This code, for example, says that age is unknown value or empty for some reason. But let's talk about the next data type and we will compare them. The next data type is undefined. The special value undefined also stands apart. It makes a type of its own, like null, but a bit another. The meaning of undefined is value is not assigned. So if a variable is declared but not assigned, then its value is undefined. For example, if x is undefined. So we declared this variable, but we didn't assign anything, so now it's undefined. The next data type is symbol. Symbol is pretty new data type. It was added a couple of years ago with ES6 specification. It's not very popular and not very often used data type. I use it just once during my career, but anyway, you need to know how that this data type exists and it can be used. We will talk about the data types later. And the next one, so it was the last from primitive. The last data type is object, but before we will talk about objects, let me say about primitive. What is a primitive data type? All primitive data types, they are immutable, so they cannot be changed, edited or altered. It's very important. And do not confuse a primitive itself with a variable assigned to a primitive value. So the variable may be reassigned a new value, but the existing value cannot be changed in the way that objects, array or function can be changed. For example, let me show you. For example, we have variable a and we can call any function and we will get updated version of this variable, but anyway r wasn't changed. So we even can reassign a, but we will get a new value, but the old value primitive string, it wasn't changed, it was just reassigned. It was lost, but we didn't change this value. Immutability is very important and we will talk about this in the next videos. And now let's talk about object. The object type is special. All the types are called primitives because their values can contain only a single thing. They can be string or number or Boolean variable, but type object can contain different types in itself. For example, so we have data type object which contains string, number and Boolean variables. In JavaScript, almost everything is built based on objects, and about objects we will talk in detail more. They are very, very important. And the last thing what I wanted to mention, so we described and discussed 8 data types. How we can find out what data types is a variable. So the operator type of, and there are two ways of using this operator, type of or type of something. For example, let's test this one, type of 0, it will be number. So type of returns a string which represents what data type is this variable. Type of, for example, 10n, it's bigint. Type of true, for example. For example, type of a string, it's a string. And for symbol, it's symbol. And the next one, type of null is object, but it's a very interesting thing in JavaScript, it's mistake. It was mistake from the very beginning when JavaScript was created, and now there are a huge number of codes created with this bug. So this bug will be never fixed in JavaScript. We just need to remember that null is object. Type of returns as an object, but it's a primitive data type. The next one, type of alert, for example, we already used this function, it's function. Function is a separate part of JavaScript. So, summary. There are eight basic data types in JavaScript. 7 of them are primitives. Primitives, they have no methods, for example, and they cannot contain anything inside, just its value, and one object. To find out what the data type is, we can use type of function or operator. And we need to remember that null shows as an object, but anyway it's a primitive data type.